Right, perfect. So once again, welcome this morning to this NJ Golf Handicap Review Tool Phase 2 demo and discussion. I'm Rich Kennedy, Director of Handicap and Member Services for New Jersey Golf. Uh, this is an exciting new feature to the handicap system. Those of you who are um, working at clubs last year, you may be aware of the Phase 1 release of the handicap review, and that which was also exciting. But this definitely takes it to another level. Uh, this is the ability, using data-driven analytics, the data that USGA has access to. They're able to evaluate our golfers with handicaps and really make a determination whether or not a recommended adjustment upward or downward should happen. So this morning we are, this is our agenda. We're gonna just go through a handicap review, and this is a club-wide review. So Phase 1, not to get too much into it, but Phase 1 was basically the ability to go into a golfer at any point, and just gonna admit these individuals. So phase 1 was the ability to go in and access a golfer that you might have some concerns about and run a review and see if there was a recommendation to either adjust the golfer's handicap down or adjust the handicap up. Phase 2 allows you to do that for your entire club roster. So it's much more objective, automated, and maybe an easier conversation to address the golfers that will be adjusted, letting them know, ensuring them that this is not, the committee targeting you. This is the committee running a club-wide review, and these are the results. And we have been strongly encouraged to apply these recommendations, these data-driven analytics that are showing that we should probably adjust your handicap downward or upward again. So we're going to look at the report data after we run a review. There's a couple of really neat features. The golfer details feature, I think, is something you guys are going to love, because it gives you that just extra data points, extra talking points, more to consider, maybe adding to the adjustment, more to consider maybe drawing back from the adjustment. And then we're going to conclude by talking about the two paths for executing the recommended adjustments. There is the traditional path, which is in the rules of handicapping, where when you make an adjustment to a golfer, the notification before you do that, allowing the golfer to possibly to make an appeal. But Path 2 does allow us to go ahead and go in and just go ahead and make those adjustments and allow the golfer to kind of react to the adjustment by reaching out and making an appeal. So we'll talk about that. There's a process that we're going to discuss, which I think is going to be helpful. Again, really excited to be talking about this morning, to be demoing this new feature to the handicap system. I really think it's going to be a great tool. It's a long awaited tool for our clubs. We're going to try to keep it brief. Again, probably about 45 minutes, but we want to have some discussion as well. So we'll see how the discussion goes, and hopefully we'll be able to stay within that 45-minute time period, but we may go a little longer depending on that discussion. Okay, so let's dive into the admin portal, the all familiar admin portal. And what I'm going to do, so this is my access point. This is NJ Golf, so it looks a little different because we kind of go club to club. I'm just going to run this review for our GC. Go. So we have a couple e clubs here at New Jersey Golf. We have the New Jersey Golf E Club, but we also have a USGA NJGC. This is people who navigate, who really want to get a handicap. You know, a lot of times they end up going through the USGA, so this is just another way for them to get access to the handicap and to get access to membership through New Jersey Golf. So you've probably seen members at your guest events showing up with a USGA NJGC or a USGA MGA, USGA Gap. So that's what that is. So we're required. So first thing is with this, and feel free if you have not
Hey,
run the
Jim.
review, if you if you have not run the review yet, um, if you can access the portal right now, feel free to do it while we go through it. We want you to run this review.
How are we doing with the, are we blocking off the, okay, they got that one, 2, 3, 4. What are we doing with Thursday? Are we blocking off to like 10? Can you take a look at
I
that?
believe
Yeah.
we're blocking off,
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you just just make sure you're muted. If you got other stuff happening. um, so back to so feel free to run a review while I'm doing it. Again, we want you to do it at least once a year. So now's a good time to do it. Probably we'll talk about the number of times a year as we go forward. I think USGA is leaning towards 2 times a year, and really no more than that. You know, there might be some wiggle to go 3. Again, that's something we'll hopefully we can get to and talk about in our discussion. But right now, let's just go ahead and run the review. So it's very simple. We don't have to go in reports or anything like that. It's a tab item here. It's handicap review. I'm clicking on it, and it's as simple as clicking this button right here, new handicap review. And it's a big club, 6,000 golfers. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to click confirm. And, you know, this is what you're going to look at. Depending on the size of your club, will depend on how long this takes. I'm going to give it a minute, but so we're not sitting here watching. I did run a review for so I'm just tabbing over. And so this is the NJ Golf E Club. So I already ran a review for the E Club. So you have 2 weeks to apply adjustments. So this is, you can always go back into, you can run a review if you don't have time to really look at it, but you got to run. Don't feel like you have to do everything. You have to analyze every player all at once. You can kind of do what you got to do, go teach for a day, you know, for the rest of the day, or even wait until you have a committee meeting the following week. You know, don't just try not to let it go beyond 2 weeks as far as getting in and analyzing your data. I'm just going to toggle back here, see how we're doing. And you have this refresh status and finalize option as well to check in on it. So this is what the results will look like once the review is run. And what it does is it puts the golfers that have been recommended for adjustments at the top of your page. I'm going to use a drop down here. And so it says 110 pending adjustments. So the E Club, again, you know, we have close to 6,000 golfers in the E Club. So you're probably not going to have 110 golfers adjust, but you may have, you know, a similar type ratio. You may have 10, 20, 30 golfers. That is possible. So what's nice about this is we can toggle it. If I click on recommended adjustments, it's going to sort it for me. The higher recommended adjustments, will put it at the top. And it gives you some general information right here. Just the number of scores posted. You see that expiration there. So, you know, I have another day to go in and determine whether or not we're going to apply these adjustments. We have the number of high flags, number of low flags. High flags are scores that um, golfer are higher than the expected score for that golfer. Low flags are scores that are lower than the expected score. So you can sort through this, and then as you go through, let's make sure I don't wait, jump in here. Jimmy Mack back in. Okay, as you go through the players, you have details. And this is what has me really excited. So definitely scroll through, see who's been recommended for an adjustment. And then once you're ready to talk about the player, click those details. So this is that second aspect of this that I think is just absolutely fantastic. So not only do we have the ability now to go in, run that club-wide review for all of our members, but for each of our members, even we're going to look at golfers that haven't been adjusted. We get this detail report, and we get some the action item at the top, whether we want to apply or deny the adjustment. But here are the factors involved. So factors impacting the USGA recommendation. So we have this golfer starting. Again, we're looking at 365 days worth of golf data. We have this golfer starting at 11.1, finishing at an 8.3. We have the number of soft caps, so the number of revisions that have taken place where a soft cap kicked in, hard caps. We have a number of exceptional scores, and minimum differential max handicap index. We have a play to handicap index. So we have 21% of the time he's played to the expected index, 12% actual. And then we have the flags. Let me just go back here to a second. You have explainers as well, which are helpful. That little question mark. So play to handicap index is defined by a score differential equal to or better than the handicap index. So over the entire handicap index range, the played handicap average is about 20-25% of the time. For this review, the expected value listed is specific to all scores posted for players with a similar handicap index to the one in the review. Fewer scores used in the handicap review period will increase the variability in the actual versus expected value. So explainers are very helpful. We also have this competitive factor.
Rich, can I interject?
Yes, please.
Is that all right? You said played to handicap index. Could you clarify what does that mean? The rounds played versus the how does that work? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so it's the rounds where they've played to your handicap index.
Oh, played to there. In other words, played within there. I see. I
Right.
apologize. I thought it was got it. Thank you. I apologize.
All good. Good question. So the last data point to look at, again, this data point doesn't really tie into the to whether or not the calculation that gets you to a point where we're recommending an adjustment, but it's very helpful, which is general rounds versus competitive rounds factor. So great talking point for the committee to look at. Here we have 43 rounds that are just non-competitive rounds, and we have an average differential versus the 5 competitive rounds for this golfer and that average differential. This plus factor here, and again, you got the explainer, but the 5.7 means the golfer plays better in casual rounds, regular rounds, than they do in competitive rounds. And then the last piece, which I think is important, is if you go scores in review. So this is going to take a look at those flagged scores. So you can look at each of the scores that we're talking about. So you're not just like 8 low flags, 3 low, well, what are those scores? Well, here they are. So you can again review the scores, discuss the scores. You'll have, as a committee, you should have some context maybe around some of the scores. You can see if they're away scores. You can see, again, if they're competitive scores, you'll see that. So again, more information to go into this decision. And you don't have to, so we can just simply click apply and the adjustment will kick in. We can simply click deny, but we can also, if we're thinking, you know what, -3 is just not enough, we want to go -4, or if we're thinking -3 is too much and we want to go -2, we can on our own make those modifications without using this. So that handicap management, that gets us here where we can click modify handicap index, and then I like, when we're doing this, I like the adjusted score differential option, and we can do our own adjustment using the data that we were given in the handicap review. I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are any questions. All right, so nothing in the chat. Anybody want to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, I'm on the road. Thank you. This particular individual, if I saw it correctly, Rich, had a lowest handicap in the range of 3.4, but it was resting around 8.1 right now, and the tool is suggesting taking the 8.3 down to 5.3, -3.
That is correct.
Wow,
that is correct.
Percentage-wise, that's pretty large. But I guess it's important. This goes probably to the discussion around appeals. It goes to that data. I'm assuming that the evidence for the appeal would be that other report screen that you just had up a moment ago that showed the difference.
Correct. Yeah. So if I go back under, I can access. So I'm in the individual. This is Jerry. I appreciate the question, and this is a good. So within the golfer. So we're talking about this individual. I went into the golfer specific profile, and now I'm under his handicap review, so I can get back into it that way by clicking details. So again, I'm back into the screen here, and I'm able to kind of look at the data, and again have a conversation about with the committee members about whether, you know, this -3 adjustment is appropriate, or maybe we're going to lighten it or add to it according to the context of the golfer and what we know about him and all those kinds of things for your committee. But this is the starting point. I think those of you, and I know, you know, looking at some of the names that I have on this call, I know I have golf professionals that have been doing this for decades. This is the starting point I think you've been looking for a lot of years, where you can, you know, this is not the committee sitting down and kind of compiling a list of quote unquote sandbaggers or golfers of concern. You know, this is your program that you have to run. You like, just not, you can't not, you have to run this program at least once a year. So you're obligated to run this program as part of using the World Handicap System, and you're just reacting to the data that the report is giving you, and you're encouraged to make these adjustments. But you're also encouraged to review it and discuss it and make sure there's the circumstances around the golfer's play, you know, either great play or poor play, are understood. You know, there's injuries, there's things that happen that have a golfer going from playing at a high level to maybe drop in because of certain those circumstances. So you have to take that all into consideration. So let's see how I'm going to pause from this. I'm going to toggle back to see if we can refresh the status here. Okay, so we were able to refresh the status. We are in the GC, and we have 134 recommended adjustments in the GC. So it doesn't take too long. If you ran it for your club, I would think it would take probably under a minute. And again, if you're doing it at a club, 300, 400, 500 members, 100 members, you're probably talking about, half a dozen to, maybe a dozen golfers that you'll have to review. So it shouldn't be should be pretty easy to kind of sit down and go through each golfer. Now, I feel like some of you are going to run this report and you're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, wow, I can't believe such and such golfer didn't show up, which that's definitely gonna happen. So what I would recommend is everybody gets reviewed, right? So you can go in even when there's no recommendation. I'm just trying to get to a golfer here. So we have some ineligible. We'll look at some of the ineligible golfers too if we have time. I think that has to do with either and starting off with an NH, not and possibly not having a 20 scores in their history. Come on, Rich. Okay, here we go. So just go, Michael, no adjustment recommended. Actually, let's go to Cade Antonucci because he's got 22 scores in there. And there's some flag scores. But you still get some data on a golfer. You still get the competitive factor. So you'll have something to look at. You may find something in the competitive factor that gives you something to maybe think about with regard to that golfer, and maybe there's a recommendation, as per what showed up in the competitive factor. But you still get this kind of sheet of data points. You can still look at the flag scores, even for the golfers where they're not being flagged for an adjustment. And let's talk about let's talk about the paths for the recommended paths for an adjustment. So let me go to this PDF file. Okay, so this file, by the way, is available on the USGA's website, resources for admins. So definitely, you definitely want to. We're going to kind of conclude with the resources on that page. But basically, what we're talking about here is again the traditional path. Path one is the traditional path, which is right out of the rules in handicap. And when you are going to make an adjustment to a golfer's handicap index, the golfer must be, the golfer is to be notified to provide the golfer an opportunity for an appeal. So you can continue that path. At my private clubs on this call, I would recommend staying with that path. There is a level of intimacy with the membership, people knowing each other, a level of peer review, where I think it's probably important to stay with that approach. But again, lean on the aspect that we talked about earlier, which is this is a club-wide review objective, and it's flagging golfers using it's data. It's a data-driven resource to flag golfers that should be a little lower or a little higher than what their handicaps. They're playing. They're according to the data, they're playing a little better or a lot better than what their handicap index is, or a lot worse. And there's a recommendation for that adjustment. So it gives you that objective approach, and hopefully, you get to the golfers that may be that may have been a concern, which I think you will. Path two is for definitely going to be the approach that we are going to use for our E-Club members, our GC members, and NJ Golf E-Club members. We don't have that intimacy. We don't have that, that regular peer interaction with these golfers. And we are going to go through, review, and most likely apply all the recommended adjustments, and allow the golfers to follow up and make their appeal if there's a circumstance surrounding their performance that is worthy of an appeal. An injury, something going on that hey, this doesn't make sense for me, and the golfer will be provided that opportunity, and that will be communicated to them when the adjustment is made, that they do have the opportunity to appeal it. Now, another new aspect to this, which I think is great, is this appeal form that the USGA has put together. I think it's excellent. Kind of formalizes the process. So, at my clubs that are going to be providing that notification, you can include this form if they want to appeal. This is your opportunity to appeal. Fill out the form. It's up to you as to how long they have. You want to give them a 1 week period. Something along those lines, I think, makes sense to make their appeal. And so that, again, this gives them that a formal approach, some framework to work with to get that appeal in, and it'll make sure your committee, when they get the appeal, they're getting the information they need to decide whether or not you want to grant the appeal, or if you want to stick with the adjustments, the recommended adjustments. So I think that's going to be a huge help. And I'm just going to go back to our chat, see if there's any questions here. So this is that's really what I wanted to cover this morning. I just wanted to give you that look at the tool, and the encouragement to run it. I think it's a good idea to run it now. I think the second time you run it should be probably summertime, maybe pre-fall. If you want to, if you have a big member guest and you're like, what, we really want to do it here, I would say do it, but it's probably best fit if you just do it now, and then allow a time period to pass by with scores get posted, and really allow that data, more data, more scores to go into the report in between your times that you're going to run the review. I am discussing. I've been in some discussions with the USGA about ways to make it more effective by allowing clubs to run it more, run the tool more, and I think they're looking at that as well. But right now, the recommendation is to get the most out of the handicap review tool is to run it at least once, and if you're going to run it twice, that's fine, but you make sure it's spaced out between the times you run the report. Any questions? Anybody want to unmute, jump in? Anything we want to discuss? Anything in the chat?
Rich, good morning. This is Tim from Montclair. How are you?
Hey, Tim.
So our handicap committee is considering 3 times running it now, before the member guest in July, before another member in
Okay.
October. From your knowledge, is that spacing adequate? Now, July, October?
I think so. I like it, and just keep me posted on the results. I think we're going to learn from that kind of thing, Tim. So I think your spacing is good, and you know, I'm going to make a note of it. And next time I talk to USGA team, I'll bring that up. And but unless you hear back from me, I would definitely go through it and just keep me posted.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to add, I know it's, and I know Tim, you and I talk a lot about Cat Patrol, and I know definitely have some clubs on the call that use Cat Patrol, and I just want to just add, Cat Patrol is different than this. It does, it's a heavier focus on performance in tournaments, place in tournaments, first, second, third. It's used only for adjusting tournament handicaps. And the handicap review tool is something you will use to adjust handicap indexes. So that's a big distinction between Cat Patrol and a handicap review tool. I think both are solid resources and are going to really help you maintain that equitability you want to maintain at your clubs. So I would not discourage Cat Patrol, because I think it does have a place in your tournaments, but this is going to be a big help as far as making sure there's equitability in golfer handicap indexes. These indexes that are going to travel, your members will play in other tournaments, at other clubs, and all that kind of stuff. So, again, really excited about providing this resource for you all. Reach out to me anytime, email, call, if you have questions on it. If you need, me to jump into a committee meeting, on a call or whatever, if I can be there, I'll try to be there. But definitely want to help you all in this process. And hopefully we get the most out of what this tool can bring. Thank you again. Enjoy your day. Beautiful week. I know you guys got a ton of golfers probably ready to tee off and all that kind of stuff. So get back to it, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Great call. Thank you.
Thank you.